Welcome to Real Charlotte Living, a podcast about Charlotte area lifestyle, business, and real estate. I'm your host, Kamilah Peebles Brathwaite, and I'm excited to announce Season 3. It's been a long wait, you guys. A few things have changed. I fell in love, got married, and so now I'm back on track. And this first episode of the season, I'm thrilled to bring my longtime friend and business partner, Annika Lynn with Movement Mortgage. Annika is an expert in her field. She is year over year rated among one of the top lenders in the nation. And her love of people and math is the ultimate combination to serve her customers and clients. So today I'm excited to talk about the game of money with someone who is an expert in her field. Annika, thank you for joining us today.
Such a pleasure. It's always fun.
Yeah.
So, I love talking about the game of money. I feel like I do it all day, every day.
Yes.
And one of the things I say often to my clients is, if you don't realize you're playing the game of money, you're probably losing, because everybody is playing the game of money.
Yes.
And of course, the goal of the game of money is to get all the money.
Yes. We want to win.
We want to win, but it's not just you, it's not just me, it's corporations, it's Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, it's Capital One, it's everybody's playing the game of money. So if we as consumers and just as humans understand A, that we're playing, and then B, the rules of the game, that's how you win the game of money. It's not rocket science.
Yes.
But you have to know that you're playing, and then you have to know the rules. So
as we're talking about the game of money, let's start with maybe someone who's beginning.
Okay.
Who's just kind of setting out. How do they set themselves up for success, or what foundational things do you think are important?
Oh, what a great question. And I think it's so much my passion because it's generally not taught. So most people have no idea how to start, and because there's so many voices speaking to us. Back to the original premise, everybody's playing the game of money. So if you watch commercials with Samuel L. Jackson and Jennifer Garner, the girl next door, and Kevin Hart, who's hilarious and apparently lives on this amazing cul-de-sac, right? You get fed this idea that rich people spend a lot of money on credit and they do this and that, and if you don't have the underpinnings to understand the true rules of the game, you get sucked in. I was telling you earlier that I was talking to a sweet client who makes a lot of money and is very, very successful, but she's really struggling financially because she's bought into that idea that you have to live with a lot of credit or whatever, and she's drowning in debt. And the poor kid, like, it's an awful way to live.
That's a hard place to be, to know that your cash flow
is already spoken for.
Yes.
Right, exactly. So I love to get to start at the beginning, especially with, first-time home buyers, or, because of course that's what I do for a real job, but I talk to people a lot about their financial table. And I talk about the 4 legs of the table.
Yes.
And really it's about understanding the simple rules of the game, but it's also about, starting early.
Yes.
So, leg number 1, should I go into the legs?
Yeah,
of the table?
Let's
talk about legs.
I think people need to know about the legs of the table.
All right. So leg number 1 is pretty simple. It's income.
Okay.
How's your income?
Yes.
Does it match your skills?
Yes.
And so much about income is relational based. You have to have relationships oftentimes to take a career to the next level. And I think I can speak for both of us that one of the reasons we cherish our relationship is that we view what we do as a relational prospect. And so as people are working jobs, who do you know? Because whoever you know is oftentimes the route to the next step career-wise. So looking at your income, and I call that your shovel. How big's your shovel? Leg number 2 is debt. There's an old saying that the borrower is a slave to the lender.
Yes.
And so back to original premise, we're all playing the game of money. I find it to be so interesting what credit card companies call their credit cards.
Yes.
So I don't remember, I think it's Capital One, they call their card, oh, it's Chase, the Chase Freedom Card.
Yes.
So that should ring a little bit differently in your ear when you realize, wait, debt is slavery.
Yes.
But they call it the Freedom Card.
Yes.
So start noticing,
Wow.
like notice lenders, what they call their products.
Yes.
And that'll give you a clue as to what you're really up against.
Yes.
You know, so debt is obviously the enemy to wealth. I'd say the biggest enemy to wealth would be revolving debt or credit card debt,
Okay.
which of course is really where a lot of Americans are suffering today.
Is that like your, would you say retail
Anything,
cards?
any kind
or,
of credit card.
Okay.
Okay, so, and you know, I always say to my clients, I had a sweet client named Jennifer, and she had 10 credit cards, and I said, Jennifer, do you sleep with 10 guys? And then I realized I shouldn't have asked her that. And she said, no, of course not. And I said, well, then why would you let 10 strangers put their hands in your pocket?
Yes.
You know, so
I
keeping
always love when you say that.
keeping a very tight circle on who gets a hand in your wallet.
Yeah.
It's so important, you know, and people don't understand that. When you sign on the dotted line that you're going to pay $547 a month for your car,
Yes.
and then you don't pay it, you're now a financial liar.
Yeah.
And your credit report is, of course, a measure of your financial virtue and integrity. Are you a truth teller,
Yeah.
financially speaking? And if you don't, you know, complete your obligations,
Yeah.
that's when your credit score suffers,
Yeah.
because it's measuring that, you know. So the best and easiest way to stay safe financially is not to have a lot of debt.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I want to go back to, I like the words, your financial virtue and integrity. You know, it matters
Yeah.
not only, you know, those are important qualities as in our day-to-day lives, in
Yes.
human relationships
Yes.
and interactions,
Yeah.
and it's also important in our financial
It is.
life.
And, you know, a lot of times I talk to people who are very ashamed of their financial situation. And I always say, listen, we're going to fix it. You can
Yes.
fix that, you know.
Yes.
But a lot of it, there's oftentimes a disconnect. You have somebody who's very, has a ton of integrity, and you trust them,
Yes.
but their finances don't match that.
Yes.
And when there's a disconnect, it creates, you know, a cognitive sort of dissonance.
Yeah.
It's stressful, you know. So if you can figure out those rules to the game, that's what can, you know, really, really help you. So, so can I make another little point about credit score? Because
Okay.
this is a big one. I hear this all the time. One of my dear friends called me and he said, I've gotten a bonus. Should I pay off my credit cards? I said, yes. And he said, should I close the cards? I've heard that's bad. And
Yes.
I said, Ben, it's kind of like you just said to me, Annika, should I stop sleeping with a football team? Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Should I lose their phone numbers? Yes.
Yeah.
But won't that hurt my credit score? You know, it's kind of like saying, you know, if I lose all the phone numbers of the football team,
Yeah.
I won't have any friends. Well, you're going to make new friends.
Yes.
You know? So remember that the rhetoric you hear, like if you check Credit Karma, they're going to
Yeah.
say, hey, you should really open a new line of credit. Well, they're earning money. When you open a line of credit
Yes.
under their umbrella, they make money. So
Yes.
if you remember,
They're playing the
that,
game.
They are playing the game. So I can tell you, you could have perfect credit with one credit card. You don't need open lines of credit. You
Yeah.
don't need debt to have a good credit.
Yeah.
To have a good credit score. So that's leg number 2.
Okay.
Okay. People struggle tremendously with leg number 2.
Okay.
And I love to help people with that. So if you're having trouble with that, anyone call me.
Yes.
But
And I have had her help people with that.
I love to do that. You know, but I often tell people that oftentimes, and I say this to my kids too, the problem is never the problem. So when my son misses the school bus, that's not the problem.
Yeah.
The problem is that he didn't go to bed on time.
Yes.
That may not be the problem. The problem is that he got home from school and played video games for 3 hours before doing his
Yes.
homework. So you have to get back to the real problem.
What is the root?
Yes, what's the root? And so oftentimes what I find with clients is that they get into credit card debt because leg number 3 of the table is not safely, you know, set up. That's your emergency fund.
Okay.
You have to have a solid emergency fund. So
Okay.
for me, in my life, it's $30,000. It sits off in a separate bank, just sitting there. And
Yeah.
if I need a new diamond, you know, tiara, you don't touch the emergency fund, no matter what. It's not for
Yeah.
Christmas presents.
Yes.
It's not for a new car. It's an emergency
It's not
fund.
for a vacation in
Right.
Italy.
Exactly. Although that's a good idea. We should talk about that
Yeah.
later. And so just setting up really a meaningful and a real emergency fund is so critical in today's day and age.
Yeah.
And especially for people like us.
Yes.
You know, we are commissioned, we don't see the same paycheck every month. You have to have something set aside, you know, so that when it rains, you have an umbrella.
Yes.
You know, so that's leg number 3. Leg number 4 is easy. It's investments.
Okay.
So that's your 401k, start early, you know, vote early, vote often.
Yes.
You know. So obviously that, but also real estate.
Okay.
And that's what we are passionate about. You cannot build wealth without it. Real estate. You just cannot.
Yeah.
And the sooner you purchase a home when you're ready, you know, the better.
Yes.
You know, because that's how you build wealth and that's how you become debt free, which is really the goal.
Yes.
So even though I'm a mortgage lender and that's what I do all day, every day, my goal is that all my clients become debt free.
Yes.
So that's the game of money in a very short nutshell.
Span.
In a short span. So,
You know, what are some of the challenges you see? Maybe, do you see anything new coming into play with
what a great question.
Modern?
I think one thing I'll address, and this will ring in your ears, I think really you'll relate to this, is mindset.
Okay.
You know, I think we've said this before, you become the 5 people you hang out with most.
Yeah.
Are you hanging out with somebody who's making you a better version of yourself? And when it comes to finances, this relates back to that conversation I had in the car over here with this honestly desperate young woman. It was sad, and you know, I'm going to help her.
Yeah.
It's hard to dig out of a hole, you know. So
it takes work.
It takes work.
You can get out of it.
Yes.
And I've seen
many times.
The beautiful thing about what we do.
Yes.
Is
you can
see someone in a hole.
Yes.
And a lot of times, you know, I'll say, get with Annika.
Right.
She'll help you come up with a plan.
Absolutely.
If you follow that plan, you will be back with me and we will be shopping for a house.
Let's hit on that.
Because she'll get you there. But you got to do the work.
It is. But I'll circle back real quick.
Okay.
Who are you hanging out with?
Yeah.
Are you hanging out with people who are racking up credit card debt? They're out drinking 3 nights a week, spending $100 a month. You know, if you're hanging out with people that are financially heading in the wrong direction, chances are you probably are too.
Yeah.
And so it comes down to, you know, having, and I've said this about you many times, one thing I love about our friendship is you speak the truth to me. Even when I don't necessarily want to hear it, I get the truth from you.
Yeah.
And it helps me to be a better person.
Yeah.
You know, and that's personal, you know, more than business really, but what a gift, you know? And so thinking about that, you know, who am I hanging out with and are they helping me further my financial goals? And sometimes it's as simple as what podcasts are you listening to?
Yeah.
You know, listen to people who are going to speak wisdom into your life.
Yes.
Not everybody learns money.
Yes.
My parents were immigrants. My mother is from Sweden. My father is Danish. And I would watch them writing down on a ledger every night. So I learned money at a very early age, which I think helped me to avoid, you know, some of the pitfalls. But you know, are you hanging out with people that always have to have a new car every 2 years? Well, that's probably not a great decision, you know, depending on where you are.
Yeah.
You know, and understanding some of those kind of money rules. You should not have cars worth more than half of your annual income. So that's a simple little, you know, thought to have
I like that. That's a good metric when you're making those decisions.
That was the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find. But understanding some of those matrices, and I spoke to another young client yesterday. He's like, I got to know what's the top amount I qualify for. And I said, who cares?
Yeah.
You don't want to buy a house at the top amount you qualify for. We want to help you get into a house that has a payment that will fit in with your long-term financial goals. So let's back into that.
Yeah.
You know, the last thing I want is you to be house poor, you know, where you can't buy groceries because you got to pay this mortgage.
Yes.
You know, so that's something that I see, and I see some fear in young people. They're afraid to buy. Simultaneously, I'm seeing from a corporate standpoint, from the world of money,
Yes.
that there's a big push in our country to make our country a nation of renters.
Yes.
And that's scary.
Yes.
Because when
Yes.
you're a renter, you have no control.
Yes.
And sure, the rent may be $1,800 this month, but it very well could be $2,500 a month next year because you are not in control.
Yes.
And so homeownership has
Gives you payment security.
payment security. And the reality is
And
people
a
are,
stable, the more you
Yes.
have control over your monthly
Absolutely.
expenses,
yeah,
the better you can manage,
yes,
plan,
yes,
and have
yep,
a solid, foundation and,
yes.
I guess, goal towards the future. You're
Yeah,
able to
I
put
love
that
it.
in action.
I
So
absolutely,
I like that.
That's
Yeah.
absolutely true. And the reality is rates are a little bit high. Who cares? You're not buying a house because the rate is great. You're buying
Yeah.
a house because it's a smart financial decision.
Yeah.
And as rates drop, we refinance you.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
get you into a lower, payment. And
Yeah.
one thing I love about my company is we do free refinances, meaning no lender fee. That's a huge savings. And
Yes.
so when it's time, we can get you into that lower payment and save you. I'm closing a loan today where sweet VA client is saving $360 a month.
Okay.
That's real. That's life
yes,
changing.
yes.
And so that kind of thing can really, really help.
Yeah.
So, and as let's say a first time home buyer, I know you don't know how to change out an electrical socket,
Yeah.
but YouTube, when
Yes.
20, 30 years ago, you really were kind of at a loss to
Yeah.
make, but it's not that difficult
Yeah.
to maintain a home, and there's lots of people who could help you.
Yep.
So fear, we're gonna knock out
Let
the
that
door.
go.
And
Yeah.
sometimes I say to clients, because it is scary to buy a house sometimes, because you're like, oh my gosh, it's a 30-year commitment.
Yeah.
Well, listen, if you don't buy a house, you've got a 30-year commitment to rent.
Yes. Yes.
So let's just buy a house and get it over with,
Yes.
right? And I think fear is often a really good indicator of growth.
Yeah.
The kid playing video games in the basement, no offense to the kid in the basement, okay? But you know what? Probably not that scared
Yeah.
because he's not changing anything.
Yeah.
So growth
Yes.
is scary.
I like it.
You
It's
know.
uncomfortable.
It is. but
Any kind of
we
growth is
circle back to
uncomfortable.
who are you surrounded with?
Yeah.
So if something colossal falls apart in my life and I really make a big mistake, I can call you and go, here's what happened.
Yeah.
And you're going to go, you know what? It's okay.
Yep.
Let's talk about how we're going to fix it.
Yep. Let's get back up and let's
because
get moving.
Failure is a mark of success.
Yes.
The biggest failures in life are the people that are trying.
Yes.
I think of Thomas Edison, where not that I was around at that time, but
You guys go way back.
we go way back. And a reporter came up to him and was kind of mocking him and said, how does it feel to have failed to make a light bulb 1,000 times?
Yeah.
He said, I didn't fail 1,000 times. I learned 1,000 ways how not to make
Did
a
you?
light bulb.
I like it.
So, part of the beauty of failure is that it creates the person that you are today.
Yeah.
Hopefully with more empathy, certainly with more wisdom.
Yes.
So I think we're a little off track. How are we doing?
No, I think it's great.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of how to explain it, or what advice would you have for, we started with kind of first-time buyers,
Right.
people just setting out.
Yep.
What about someone who already owns a home?
Own a home, mhm.
And maybe they're thinking about
Yeah.
a second home. Maybe
Sure.
they're thinking about turning, looking at investment properties, or
Yep.
what advice or what
Great
thoughts do you
question.
have there?
Well, first thing I would say is make sure your financial table is stable.
Okay. Yep.
Don't go buy an investment property if you're drowning in debt.
Yes.
Let's fix that first.
Okay.
We want to protect your four walls always. So
Yes.
sometimes I have, and I'm going to circle back slightly to a first-time home buyer.
Yeah.
Sometimes they come to me and they go, I want to buy an investment property. No. Let's get your four walls situated
Yes.
first. Let's get you stable, and then we can grow. I think one of the things I see on, especially YouTube channels,
Okay.
with usually slick guys in, three-piece suits,
Yeah.
talking about, get-rich-quick schemes.
Yes.
There is no fast way.
Yes.
It takes time.
Nothing sustainable
Right.
happens
Overnight.
in the blink of an eye.
We talk about it sometimes with marathon running.
Yes.
I use that term extremely loosely, 15 miles this morning. It was
Yeah.
a train wreck.
Yeah.
But I got it done one pitiful step at a time.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
that's how the journey is sometimes.
Yeah.
It's not glamorous, it's not beautiful, it's not quick.
Yes.
You know, so make sure your table is in order. And then be wise about what you're doing in the sense that the slick guys on YouTube are going to be like, here's how you're going to get rich super quick with
Yes.
20,000 investment properties.
And first, you got to pay me
Right, exactly.
500.
500. But there's an inherent risk with a rental property.
Yes.
Things don't always go great.
Yes.
You know, your tenant may trash the house and not pay
Yes.
you. So understanding those risks, and that's where somebody like you comes into strong focus.
Yes.
Because you can help guide to what's a wise place to purchase.
Yes.
And help with some of the management side of things.
Yes.
So real estate investment is a very powerful tool. You have to have the stomach for it.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
you have to.
It's a risk.
It's a risk.
You're taking a risk.
It's a risk. And
But it
you
can be a
have to-
calculated, yeah, it's not a reckless, it's a
Right.
calculated risk. If you're doing it
100%.
right,
Yep.
if you're seeking counsel, yeah.
Yeah, and so like a few quick parameters about that for a first-time home buyer. And by the way, there are some unbelievable new programs available that really help first-time home buyers get their foot in the door with exceptional interest rates,
Okay.
which really helps their payment. Down payments as low as 3%.
Oh, wow.
And sometimes, and a lot of down payment assistance programs that can help them get in the door. For that investor, you're thinking, okay, I already own a home, I want to get into investing. You're going to have 20%
Yes.
to put down, sometimes 25%. Now, are there programs with less of a down payment? Yes.
Yes.
But what is that bringing into focus? Risk.
Yes.
And the riskier you are to a lender, the more it's going to cost you.
Yes.
So you can get into an investment property for less, but you're going to pay a higher interest rate.
Now,
you know?
how do you feel about, with a lot of my clients that I'm seeing, they start out as first-time buyers, and now they are, you know, in a new season of life.
Yep.
They're ready to grow and expand.
Yeah.
They're, you know, usually a bigger house
Yep.
or a house that's further out.
Yes.
And a lot of times, the house that they purchase,
Yep.
because we're always wanting to buy in a great location.
Sure.
Location matters.
Yeah, location
and
really
sometimes
matters.
it's something that, you know, I encourage them if they can hold on to
Yes,
it
yeah.
and purchase their new home
Yes.
and turn that into their investment
property,
property.
yeah.
Is there an advantage to doing it that way in terms
Absolutely.
of interest rates?
So as a lender, let's say you have a $1,000 house payment,
Yeah.
and you show up at my door and say, hey, I'm ready to buy this next house, and I got a renter who's going to come in and pay me, you know, $1,300.
Yes.
Perfect. Now I can offset
Okay.
that mortgage.
So you want to have a tenant in place prior.
You have to have a tenant in place
Okay.
prior to closing.
Okay.
This is a great question, so
Okay.
I'm going to give you a two-part answer.
Okay.
So you have to have a tenant in place prior to closing because I need to see a lease agreement,
Okay.
the first month's rent,
Okay.
and like a security deposit.
Yeah.
I got to see this is real. And
Yeah.
long-term rental. This can't be short-term rental.
Yes.
Okay. And notice that I said your mortgage is $1,000. Your tenant's going to pay $1,300. Why?
Yes.
Because without that experience, I have to take 25% off of your gross rent. Okay, it's called a vacancy factor.
Okay.
And so
Yes.
to really get rid of the entire thing, that's what I would need to do.
Okay.
Now, for some clients who maybe make great money, have no debt, maybe they don't need quite as much, and maybe they qualify without a renter in place at all.
Okay.
But it's a great thing to do, especially if you're coming to our door and saying, hey, I have this house, you know, I owe $200,000 and I have a 3% interest rate. Well, you're making money on that because
Yes.
inflation is higher than that. Like,
Yeah.
let's hold on to that if you can, and
Yeah.
you have the stomach to, you know, manage it,
Yes.
right? So it can be a great thing to do. Number two, you got to think about, which we're in great shape here,
Yes.
is in the Charlotte area
Yeah.
in general. People are moving here from all over the country. It's a very strong market.
Yes,
You know,
it is.
and so the appreciation we see is very, very good. And so you have to look at, where do I live in the country?
Yeah.
Is the home appreciation as good? Is my location great? Which really backs into how critically important it is that you have an excellent realtor.
Yes.
You know, you, for instance, you absolutely know this market.
Yeah.
And you can speak to it. You're not going to let a client make a terrible decision. I
No.
can think of many of our clients who have moved into houses for, you know, maybe $500,000, and now it's worth 8 or 9.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of several as
Yes.
we're sitting here, you know. So that's critically important too. Where is this house?
Yes.
Is it going to be compelling in terms of appreciation,
Yes.
but also in terms of somebody who wants to rent it and will stay in this house?
Yes.
You know. So what are you seeing in the real estate market that's new?
Oh, that's new. Oh boy. What am I seeing that's new? I am seeing a lot of, most of my clients are relocating from other states.
Yes.
I don't know if that's brand new. Charlotte has,
A lot of that.
over the years,
Yes.
you know, continuously seen
Yeah.
an influx of
Yes.
out of state.
Yep.
I'm
High prices
seeing,
and
I'm seeing I feel like my first time buyers are buying at price points that weren't your traditional price points
word,
for
yes.
first time buyers.
Yeah, 100%.
And they are starting out with some very, I would say, healthy incomes
Yes.
to begin with.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are actually pretty savvy.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yes.
I love that they are, they're not big risk takers. They are, most of them do not like debt
Right.
already. And I don't know if it's a generational thing,
Right.
but I feel like the first time buyer right now is different than the first time buyer many years ago.
Right.
In general, you know,
And some
that's
of
not
it
always the case, but
It's probably due to the caliber of your client, because a lot of, frankly, the majority of both of our business
Yes.
is referral business.
yes,
You know,
yes,
and
yes.
what a testament to you and what a
Yes.
great job you do. But your past clients are bringing their friends and family.
Yes.
You have to work with Kamilah, which is true.
Yes,
You should.
they should.
Everyone should. So yes, I'm seeing some of that as well.
Yeah,
You know.
and I'm seeing a lot of migration out into
Yes.
the suburbs and
Yes.
sort of in the outlying Charlotte
Places
area.
that used to be suburbs
Yes.
are now suburbs.
Yes, in
You know.
places that, like, when I was young, it was like
You didn't go there.
nobody wants to live there.
Exactly. And then we're looking at each other like, why did we not buy a house over
Yes.
there for $8,000
Yes.
6 years ago?
Yes, and I'm
So-
also seeing another thing I thought about. I'm seeing more people interested in buying land.
Yes. Yep.
And young people
Yeah,
too,
yes.
wanting to buy, you know, people. And I do say the price of land, just like homes,
Yes.
it's going to go up.
Yeah.
And it may not be there.
Yeah.
So if you can grab it,
Yeah, especially in this area.
yeah.
But you know, another good tool that I'll just sort of subject change slightly, that maybe a lot of people don't know about, because as rates are a little bit higher, people tend to stagnate a little bit. They're not going to necessarily move. And so sometimes you see that the very best house in the neighborhood or the best houses aren't necessarily up for grabs.
Yes.
So one thing that's a great tool for first time, second time, whatever, is a renovation loan.
Yes.
So those are fantastic. And
Explain how those work.
okay, so you want to buy a house in Providence Plantation. We'll just pick a great neighborhood in
Yeah.
Charlotte, right? And I went there a couple weeks ago. There were 4 houses on the market. They were not showstoppers.
Yes.
Right? Okay. And they're older, but
Yep.
what a fantastic location. So you can walk in the door and say, I got to remodel the kitchen.
Yes.
I want to do this, this, and that.
Yes.
And come to me with the contractor's bid, and we'll appraise the house as is, and the appraiser will appraise it once those repairs are done.
Okay.
You know, and give you a valuation. You buy the house based on the end product.
Okay.
Okay, and the end value, and the work gets done.
Okay.
Okay. It gets overseen by me, the lender.
Okay.
Which is great,
So
because it's a second set of eyes.
They're lending you the money based
Yes.
on the after improved
Yes.
appraised value.
Correct. Yep.
And so you're able
Yeah.
to use the,
Yes.
I guess, the difference,
Yep.
the cash that's in the
Yes.
difference of the balances
Yep.
to fund
Correct.
your renovations.
Yes. and
Okay. I love that.
It's a great tool. As a realtor, it really would behoove you to have sort of a GC in your back pocket.
Yes,
You know,
you do.
because just to be able to open doors for people, especially nowadays, what I'm seeing is a lot of people needing or wanting specialization.
Yes.
Many people are working from home.
Yes.
A lot of houses are not set up for that. They
Yeah.
don't have a designated office area. Or I'm seeing this a lot, people needing ADUs,
Yes.
auxiliary dwelling units for aging parents,
Yes.
or families wanting to just live closer together.
Yes.
So this tool can help you get into the right location, but get the house you need and or want.
Yeah.
That's where you start.
Yeah.
So jump in and do it.
I love it.
Yay,
Thank
what
you
fun.
so much,
This is
Annika.
always so much fun.
I love having you. She's such a wealth of knowledge, and really is. I use her. I refer her to all of my friends. My mother has used her.
I love her mother.
And you get someone authentic that cares about you and your best interest. That's
you.
why I do business with you. I know
thank you.
that I can trust my clients with
Thank
you.
you.
Annika, tell our guests how they can get in touch with you.
Can we put something in the comments?
Yeah, I'll have
Okay,
notes
perfect.
in there
So,
or links.
certainly you can call me. My phone number is 704-504-0304. And you could email me, annika.lynn@movement.com. We'll put that in the show
Yes.
notes since spelling might be difficult. And of course, I'm happy to help and be any kind of resource that anyone needs. So thank you for that.
Thank
Yes,
you.
yes.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. That's a wrap for our first episode of season 3 of Real Charlotte Living. Kamilah Peebles Brathwaite here, and I will be back in a couple of weeks with a new episode.
Wonderful.
Thank you.